I don't know if I should have seen it coming. I knew my wife had been spending a lot of time with her friend Audrey. I wasn't too keen on that. Audrey was divorced and had lived a pretty wild life, as far as I was concerned. She was constantly changing boyfriends. I couldn't keep up with them, but then I had no reason to try. I really didn't like her, but I never tried to come between her and my wife, Linda. Looking back, maybe that was a mistake. All I know is that she was instrumental in convincing my wife to end our 177-year marriage. We had a 15-year-old child. My daughter Tanya and our son Clay were 2 years younger. We lived as most suburban families do, I guess. Linda worked in a doctor's office and I was pretty successful at selling computer software. We had a nice home, 2 nice cars and a wonderful family life. At least, that's how it seemed to me. The first indication I had that Linda didn't exactly share my view of things was when I came home one Friday night to see her and Audrey sitting at the kitchen table. Audrey looked as smug as ever, but I thought Linda looked a little worried. It didn't take a genius to figure out something was up. "Hi darling," Linda said while standing to give me a kiss. "Hi honey," I responded, putting my briefcase down and wrapping my arms around my lovely wife. After we kissed, I glanced at Audrey and greeted her with a simple hi. "I'm going to run upstairs and change," I said, reaching down from my attaché case. "Okay. Darling, would you like a cup of coffee?" She seemed to be searching for work. "Audrey and I have something we'd like to talk to you about when you come back down." I figured there was no time like the present. "Well, why don't you go up and change? I'll get your coffee, and let's talk when you come back down." I looked into her eyes to see what she was up to. She seemed anxious, and I got a little nervous when I saw Audrey smirking. Whatever they were planning, I wasn't going to like it. As I climbed the stairs, my brain went into overdrive, thinking of a dozen different possible scenarios of what I would face when I returned. None of them, however, prepared me for what actually happened. It only took me a few minutes to change from my suit and tie into a pair of. I changed into casual slacks and a polo shirt. My coffee was sitting on the table in front of my chair when I walked back into the kitchen. Audrey was chatting away, but it almost sounded like she was coaching my wife about something. She was whispering, though, and I couldn't hear her that well. I sat down at the other side of the table, took a sip of coffee and looked at them. "What's going on? What's this all about?" Linda was hesitant and for a moment froze without saying a word until Audrey gave her a little prompt. "Go ahead." She told my wife, "He loves you. He'll understand." Linda lowered her eyes as if she couldn't look me in the face. "Honey, you know I love you very much, so please don't take this the wrong way." "Well, I want to go out on a few dates with Audrey, not all the time." She blurted out, "Just once in a while." I wasn't quite sure I understood. I wasn't sure what she meant by dates. I had to ask her to clarify. I wanted to know if she meant having sex with other men. Audrey jumped in and said that it doesn't mean she doesn't love him. "You know, Robert," I was going to cut her off by telling her I was talking to my wife, but I decided to let her speak. I knew this wasn't my wife's idea, it had Audrey's name written all over it. But I wanted to see if I could figure out how the hell she got Linda to go along with it. She kept going, saying it was just about intimacy. "It doesn't mean anything. We were talking, and she told me that, besides you, she's only been with one other man in her whole life." "That's ridiculous, Robert. I'm sure you've had a lot more women than that. She needs to get out and have a little fun." I looked back at my wife. "Intimacy with me isn't fun." Linda finally looked up at me. I tried to mask the pain in my face, but I don't think I was doing a very good job. I didn't say that. Instead, Audrey responded, heading Linda off. "Men have different ways of doing things. It's just variety. There are a lot of guys out there who love it doesn't mean anything, Robert. It's just intimacy. Hell, Linda and I discussed it and decided it was only fair to let you get a little on the side as well, if you wanted." I looked back at Linda. I'm not sure if it was fear or regret that I saw, but I think she was beginning to realize this was a big mistake. I said, "I see," quite flatly. I could feel tears building up in my eyes, but I was determined to hold them back. "Audrey, could you stick around for a little while? I want to discuss this more when I come back." She replied with a triumphant look on her face. I'm sure she thought she had me where she wanted me. "Where are you going?" Linda asked, finally speaking again. "I'll be back in a little while," I responded, but not answering her question. I went into my home office and closed the door. Since I was a kid, I've always taken a I don't mean I don't like to have fun. I can party with the best of them and I have a great sense of humor, but when it comes to serious matters, I believe in facing them head on. I continued typing, fighting back tears. "Dear Linda, I never thought I'd be so hurt by the woman I've loved for so many years. When you told me you wanted to have intimacy outside of our marriage, it broke my heart. I know your friend Audrey is behind it, but your willingness to go along with her scheme has already damaged our relationship and our marriage. I just want to be clear about my position on your planned infidelity. I see any sexual relations with a man or woman as a betrayal and a violation of our wedding vows. For clarity, sexual relations include any oral or physical stimulation in a sexual manner, whether given or received. If you ignore my feelings on this and go ahead with your affair, I will. On Monday morning, I'll file for divorce. I'll also contact our parents and everyone we know to explain why I took this action. I'll also sit down with the children and explain the reasons we're divorcing. Until our divorce is final, I'll leave no stone unturned until I uncover the names of anyone you date. If they're married, I'll inform their wives. I don't have any mercy or sympathy for them or their families. Make sure they know this before you put them and their families in jeopardy. Once the divorce process has started, there will be no turning back. We will always be connected through our children, but I will break off all emotional ties with you and start rebuilding my life without you in it. You have a choice to make. The above are the consequences should you make good on your threat to have sex. If you want to stay married, there will be conditions. As I said before, telling me you want to have sex with other women has hurt me more than I thought it could. I don't know if I can forgive you or if our marriage can be fixed, but I'm willing to try if you accept my terms. One of them is that you cut all ties with Audrey. You can't contact her again. You'll stay with her for any purpose until I decide otherwise. You'll move your belongings into the spare bedroom and sleep there. You'll make an appointment with your doctor and be tested for STIs. I won't even consider having sex with you until I know you're safe. If any results are positive, I'll immediately file for divorce. You'll consent to putting a GPS in your car that I'll access daily and answer any questions. I might have to know where you are without any hassle. If you agree to my terms, I'll try to forgive you, but it'll take time to rebuild my trust. What you need to do now is choose. I hope you make the right choice, but I'm still here for you." I could hear Linda and Audrey talking. As I was finishing up, I could tell they'd moved from the kitchen to the couch in the living room. I really wanted to hear what they were saying, but in the end, it didn't matter. I'd made my point, and there was no going back. I went into Mail Merge and addressed an envelope and a copy of the letter to my parents, Linda's parents, and our family attorney. I stuffed and sealed each envelope and stamped them. I then made 2 more copies for the co. I saw them both turn their heads in my direction when they heard me exit my office. I said, "I'll be right back," and went for the front door. I had something for the mailbox. My wife said, "Can't that wait? We have to talk." I was out the door before she could finish what she was saying. I walked to the corner and mailed all 3 copies of my deposition. A few minutes later, I was back. I approached both of them. I handed the women sitting on my couch a copy of my statement. "What's this?" Linda asked. "It's my thoughts on the subject," I replied. I wanted to spell them out in black and white to make sure there are no misunderstandings. The women tentatively started to unfold their papers. I watched Linda's face as she read. Tears immediately flooded her eyes. "You bastard," screamed Audrey. "What kind of a prick are you?" "Come on, Linda," said my wife, taking my wife by the hand. "Shut up," yelled Linda, jerking her hand from Audrey's grip. "He's my husband, and I love him. Nobody, including you, is going to call them names in my presence. Audrey's face showed shock. It was a priceless moment. My wife continued, I want you out of my house and out of my life. I don't ever want to see or hear from you again. Linda stood and lifted Audrey up by the arm. This is goodbye, Audrey, she said, escorting her former friend to the door. I mean it. Stay away from me. She turned to me, tears rolling down her cheeks. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to hurt you. I accept your demands and anything else you say. I can't even imagine my life without you. I said I'd try, Linda. I can't promise more than that right now, except for one thing. If I catch you trying to satisfy your curiosity by so much as standing in the same room with a naked person, it's over. I know now that I never really did that night. I helped her move her clothes to the spare bedroom for the time being. We simply told the kids we had a fight and were sleeping in different rooms until we cooled off. They were skeptical, I could see it in their faces, but they accepted our explanation. The next day I went out and bought a GPS for Linda's car. I also bought a recording device for the phones without her knowing. It was a simple little gizmo. All you did was plug it into any phone jack when a call was either placed or received from any phone in the house. It recorded both sides of the conversation when the connection was broken. I set it up in my office and hid the unit behind the filing cabinet. I put it in a filing cabinet just in case. On Sunday, I installed the GPS in Linda's car and downloaded the software to my laptop. I was hopeful but not completely sure about our future together. Linda's job only required her to work 4 days a week, so she got Saturday, Sunday, and Monday off. I kept an eye on the GPS signal all day at work on Monday. She went to the grocery store at about 10, other than that, the car never left the drive. I was still pretty apprehensive and anxious to review the phone tap when I got home that night. The kids were doing their homework at the kitchen table while Linda was cooking dinner. Hi honey, she said, rushing over to give me a kiss. I saw the disappointment in her eyes when I turned my cheek to her. Can we talk later tonight? The kids were in bed when she asked again. My heart started to beat fast. Had she changed her mind? Yeah, I answered, feeling my anxiety. After supper, I spent some time with the kids, then announced that I had some work to do and retired to my office, closing the door behind me. I plugged a set of headphones into the recorder to make sure no one but me could hear it. I felt a sinking feeling when I heard the first call. It was from Audrey. Hello, my wife answered on the second ring. Hey girlfriend, is he at work? Can you talk? I don't care, Audrey. The first condition Robert had in his letter was that I drop you as a friend. I'm not taking any chances on messing up if you ever try to contact me again. I will tell everyone that you tried to sabotage my marriage. I mean it. I don't ever want to talk to you again. With that, the line went dead. My heart started beating again. Maybe there is a chance for us. I thought the next call was from her parents. Wow, did she get it from them? Hello. I heard Linda answer with a sigh. I think she thought it might be Audrey again. You know my friend Audrey. Before she could go on, she heard her dad's voice through the phone. Who is that? Are you talking to Linda? I could hear Linda sniveling as she tried to answer him. I'm sorry, Dad. I'm so sorry. I know I've hurt you and Mom. I've certainly hurt Robert. I'm so sorry. I could hear her crying harder. Her dad heard her as well. It seemed to quell his anger a little. His voice was a little calmer when he spoke again. I don't understand what got into you, girl. I sure as hell hope you told him you'd abide by those rules. He put down, yes, Dad. I've already dropped Audrey as a friend. I told her I never wanted to talk to her again. I can't have the STD tests done where I work. I would be too embarrassed, but I'm going to call an out-of-town clinic and have it done there. I'm also going to be the best wife a man could ever want. Dad, I know how lucky I am to get a second chance. Believe me. I won't mess it up. They chatted a bit more, and then her mom got on the phone again. By the time they'd finished, all three of them were in tears. The most interesting call was from Linda to my mom. "Hi Mom, Linda." "Hi honey, it's so good to hear from you. How are you doing? Obviously you haven't received Robert's letter yet. Letter number 1? Everything all right?" My mom asked. "What's up, Linda? What's going on? Are the kids okay? Did something happen to Robert?" I could hear the panic in your voice. "No, Mom. The kids are fine. Robert's fine. Well, I did something really stupid, and it's hurt our marriage. Robert threatened to divorce me." "What did you do?" "I told him I wanted to date other men." She told my mom what? "Why would you say something like that?" "I don't know, Mom. I guess it was a bit stupid. I was talking to a friend of mine who's single and always going out with different guys. She told me all these stories about having intimate encounters with them. She said no two guys are the same, some are better than others, but everyone is different. She made it sound like I was missing out on so much fun. She kept telling me I should get out there and experience what life had to offer. She said she could line me up with as many guys as I wanted and we could double date. She just kept talking, and like an idiot, after a while I started to listen to her. Linda, you're married, she's single. That's a big difference. I know my wife responded, but she introduced me to a friend of hers. Her friend was married. Her name was Betty. She said her husband let her go out with other guys all the time. She said he loved her so much he wanted her to have fun. After all, it was just sex. The two of them got together and tried to convince me Robert would do the same because he loved me. I knew he'd never go for it, but I kind of followed their lead. I never stopped to think. Just think how much it would hurt him. The pain in my mom's voice was clear as a bell. Oh Linda, how could you? She sobbed. I'm sorry, Mom. I'm so sorry. What happened? Did he leave you? What about the kids? No, he didn't leave me. He gave me an ultimatum, dump the girlfriend, who talked me into it, and give up any notion of sleeping with anyone else or divorcing. We're also going to go to. He sent out a letter to our marriage counselor explaining the situation. It went to my parents, you, Dad Anderson, and our attorney. My parents already got it, but I figured it'd take another day to get to you guys. You could hear my mom crying. Linda, I don't know what to say. I never thought you could be so cruel. I hope for your sake that Robert loves you as much as I think he does. If I'd done something like that to Bryce, I would have been fired on the spot. I know, Mom. Now it was Linda who was crying again. I promise I'll never hurt him again. I came close to losing him, but I'm going to show him how sorry I am every day for the rest of my life. Please forgive me. Listening to both of them crying was making my eyes water at about 10. That night, we made sure the kids were in bed and then sat on the couch for our talk. I still didn't know what our little powwow was about, but I could see tears forming in his eyes as she started. I spoke to our parents today. Mom and Dad got your letter, boy, she said with a forced chuckle. Dad really let me have it, she said after a second thought. Everyone pretty much let me have it. Your mom and Dad hadn't received the letter yet, but I'm sure they'll get it tomorrow, so I called to kind of cushion it in. I wish I'd thought to do that for my own folks. It's a shame because everybody's so hurt and disappointed in me. I'm disappointed in myself. I just want to say again how sorry I am. She wiped the tears from her eyes and continued, also, don't get mad, but I've got to tell you, Audrey called too. I guess she thought I was kidding when I said we were no longer friends. Anyway, I told her again that if she ever called me again, I'd tell everyone how she tried to sabotage my marriage. She doesn't have many women friends, and I don't think she's willing to take a chance of losing the few she has, so I doubt I'll hear from her again. Even though I knew all about them, I was glad she told me about the calls. I took her hand, smiled, and I thanked her for being honest with me the following week. Linda went in for her STD tests. To tell you the truth, I never really believed she had actually cheated on me. If she had, I don't think Audrey would have been able to keep from rubbing my nose in it. she would have spilled the beans for sure. I know HIV can hide in the body for years before showing up, but all the other tests were negative. So after 3 months, I finally let Linda back into our bed. At first, our lovemaking was awful. It was a bit awkward at first, but Linda was really determined to rebuild what we had. Even after things settled down, she was always happy to do whatever I wanted, and she was really enthusiastic about it. I think our sex life is better now than it ever was. The marriage counseling helped a lot. Audrey and her friend really did a good job on my wife. Our therapist made her go over every conversation again and again. Even Betty's husband got involved, from what she said. He did his best to convince her. He said that any man who truly loved his wife should be able to put his jealousy aside to make her happy. I think he was hoping to get into her pants himself somewhere down the line. One of these days I'm going to have to look that up and express my feelings. Between the three of them, they really went all out. It's been over a year since that ill-fated day. The day came when I started to suspect something was going on. I don't know if I should have, but I started to monitor Linda's whereabouts with the GPS. I also started checking her phone calls. Once that seed of distrust has been planted, it's hard to let it go. Next month, we're going to celebrate her mom and dad's 50th wedding anniversary. Looking back at what we went through and where we are today, I'm pretty confident that in 31 years and 3 months we'll be doing the same. I'm sure that in 31 years and 3 months we'll be doing the same. That's the end of today's story. If you enjoyed it, please give this video a thumbs up and leave a comment. Your support helps the algorithm push my content further. If you're new to the channel, don't forget to hit that subscribe button. It really helps me keep creating more stories for you. Thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next one.